Hey everybody, this is the Mage of Ancients, and I'm here with my long overdue May 2019 update for my Dark Magician deck profile. Yes, it's been a while since I updated this deck, but I am doing it right now, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And if you guys enjoy deck profiles just like this, then let me know down in the comments what other deck profiles you guys would like to see, and I'll be sure to get those to you as soon as I can. Also, if you guys want to help support the channel, then be sure to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell so you stay updated on my latest Yu-Gi-Oh videos. So, it's still going to be quite a while until Dark Magician can be as competitively viable as Blue Eyes. Well, I'm just still waiting for the best support that we've ever gotten. Still, this new spell from Duel Power, Bond Between Teacher and Student, is good for both anime fans and for people who are trying to make a Dark Magician just a little bit more competitive. So yeah, bond between teacher and student while you control Dark Magician. It brings out Dark Magician Girl, and you can set any of the Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl spells straight from your deck. So it just provides more disruption and a bit more competitiveness to the deck. But I don't want to talk too much. I'm pretty sure that you guys are pretty eager to see what I run in this deck. So with that being said, let's get started with this deck profile update for Dark Magician. So to start off, you guys already know me by now. I like to run my 3 generations of Dark Magician right here. And I wouldn't have any other way. Spells are pretty much self-explanatory. You guys can try running 2 copies of Dark Magician. But you just want to be able to see it as often as possible. So that's why I run 3 copies of it. And then afterwards, 3 Apprentice Illusion Magician. You can discard 1 card, you can special summon this card from your hand, and this also works as your searcher for your Dark Magician, and it also works as pretty much your honest while it's face up on your field or it's in your hand. So you can boost the attack and defense power of 1 dark spellcaster you control by 2,000 while it battles an opponent's monster. And then afterwards, the other 3 that I run is Magician's Rod. This, of course, lets you search for your Dark Magician spells and traps. And I also like its second effect. Basically, after you use its first effect is search, and then you just send it away to the graveyard later. And then during your opponent's turn, you can recycle this by attributing 1 spellcaster that you control. So yeah. And then afterwards, 3 copies of Joel and Lockbird. I just feel that there are still several decks out there that decide to just search and draw into more cards, like Dangerous Thunder Dragons and Sky Strikers. Of course, you guys can make this Ash Blossom or Effect Veiler or Ghost Ogre, whatever other hand trap that you want to. But for now, I just feel like Joel and Lockbird is just a really good card to go with, even in this format. Also, it is a spellcaster, so it works pretty well with the Spellbook engine. I do run the Spellbook engine because I don't have extravagance right now. So, yeah, I decided to go with that. And then afterwards, 2 copies actually of Magician of Dark Illusion right there, and then 1 copy of Dark Magician Girl and 1 Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. The reason why I decided to bump up my copies of Magician of Dark Illusion to 2 instead of just leaving it at 1 is because I also run Infinite Impermanence in this deck. I just feel like let's say that my opponent decides to force me to go second, and somewhere down along the line, if my opponent tries to do anything funny, then I have Infinite Impermanence in my hand, as well as the Magician of Dark Illusion. Then I could just activate Infinite Impermanence from my hand, and then special summon Magician of Dark Illusion from my hand as well. So that way, on my following turn, then I already have a body on the board. Dark Magician Girl, of course, is here to work in tandem with the other Dark Magician spells that I've included for this update. Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, it's to search out for the other cards in my Spellbook engine. Next up for the spells, of course, I run 3 copies of Dark Magical Circle. This lets you search, just like Magician's Rod, this lets you search the top of your deck for any Dark Magician or Dark Magician related spells and traps. So yeah. Also, this is your primary form of disruption, just so you guys know. You can target and banish any card that your opponent controls when Dark Magician is normal or special summoned to your field. Afterwards, 1 copy of Illusion Magic. After you use, let's say, Magician's Rod's effect to search for your other Dark Magician spell or trap, you can use Illusion Magic to search for your 2 Dark Magicians from your deck. So afterwards, 1 copy of Eye of Timaeus and 1 Dark Magic Inheritance. Unfortunately, Eye of Timaeus does not specifically list Dark Magician in its card text, so you can't search it with Dark Magical Circle or Inheritance or Rod or any of the sort. But I still think it's a pretty good card. Personally, I would have loved to bump this up to 2, but the reason why I decided to just leave it at 1 is because it bricks. Sometimes I may not have a Dark Magician monster on my field, so I can't use Eye of Timaeus. And still, Dark Magic Inheritance is still a pretty good card. So, especially since I am running the Spellbook engine in this deck, I can just banish those 2 Spellbook cards from my graveyard and then just do another search off of that. Then afterwards, here are the Dark Magician related spells that I decided to incorporate into this deck. Bond Between Teacher and Student, Dark Magic Attack, Dark Burning Attack, and finally Dark Burning Magic. This is the whole reason why Dark Magician Girl is in this update. Bond Between Teacher and Student, straight out of Duel Power. If you control Dark Magician, then you can special summon Dark Magician Girl from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and then you can set any one of these cards directly from your deck onto your field. And you can also use Bond Between Teacher and Student to set Dark Magic Twin Burst if you want to. So either one of these 3 cards or Twin Burst if you want. I especially like how Dark Burning Magic is a quick play spell, so that way you can take your opponent by surprise on their following turn. Dark Magic Attack, if you control Dark Magician, you can blow up your opponent's back row. Dark Burning Attack, if you control Dark Magician Girl, you destroy your opponent's monsters. And Dark Burning Magic, if you control both Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl as the original names, then you can blow up your opponent's entire field. However, sometime in the future, I just hope that Konami releases something that lets us recycle these cards from our graveyard after we use them. Personally, I think that would be really cool to see. And as I said, I run the Spellbook engine as the budget alternative to Pot of Extravagance. So, 2 copies of Secrets, 2 Knowledge, and finally 2 copies of Dark Magic Veil. Secrets lets you search for either your Knowledge or your Blue Boy. Knowledge, if you have a Spellcaster on your field or a Spellbook card in your hand, then you can send either one of those 2 to the either one of those 2 to the graveyard, and then you can draw 2 cards. Dark Magic Veil, I think this is a very underrated card, especially since you want to be able to get Dark Magician on your field as soon as possible. So you pay 1,000 life points and special summon 1 Dark Spellcaster from your hand or graveyard. So maybe Dark Magician of Dark Illusion, or Dark Magician itself, or Apprentice Illusion Magician. Whatever it is, I highly recommend that you run this card in your deck, whether it's 1 or 2 copies of it. And now for the traps. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I run 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Like I said with Joel and Lockbird, you guys can make this into any other card that you want to. Maybe you can substitute this out for Typhoon or any other card that you can activate from your hand during your opponent's turn. So that way you can just get your combos going and just disrupt your opponent's board before your turn even starts. Especially since Mystic Mine Burn is slowly becoming a thing and something that people are just being very wary of. You can substitute this out for Typhoon if you want to. Next, 2 copies of Eternal Soul, 2 Magician Navigation, and 1 copy of Dark Renewal. I decided to substitute 1 copy of Navigation out for Dark Renewal because let's say that you happen to not have Dark Magician in your hand. So if you still have Magician Navigation in your hand, then this card is pretty much useless if you don't have Dark Magician in your hand. Dark Renewal, I still think it's a pretty good card. After you, let's say, normal summon your rod to get your search going, and you set this, and you can also, from there, as soon as your opponent tries to summon a monster, you flip Dark Renewal and then special summon any Dark Spellcaster from your deck or graveyard. This is especially good if you want to try and get out Magician of Dark Illusion, since you can't really search it or anything like that. And now for my extra deck. Of course, I run 1 copy of Dark Magician the Dragon Knight as well as Amulet Dragon. If I ran a 2nd copy of Eye of Timaeus, then I would have definitely slipped in the 2nd copy of Dragon Knight. So Dark Magician the Dragon Knight, basically, it acts as Dark Magician while it's on the field or in your graveyard. So you can special summon it back with Eternal Soul or Magician of Dark Illusion if you want to. This basically protects your back row from your opponent's spells, from your opponent's card effects, actually. And so with Dark Magician on in your monster zones and Eternal Soul in your back row, then you basically have an almost unbreakable board, unless your opponent tries to do anything funny. Amulet Dragon, it's another card that you can use with you can get out with Eye of Timaeus. So yeah, so this lets you you can power it up by targeting any number of spell cards in both graveyards, and then it gets a power boost off of those off of the number of spells that you banished with its effect. Also, when it's destroyed, you can target a spellcaster in your graveyard and then special summon it. And then afterwards, 2 copies of Ebon Illusion Magician. This lets you, it doesn't specifically say that in the card text, but you can actually use this to special summon Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard. Also, while Dark Magician is on your field and you're battling with it, then you can, at the start of the damage step, I think, or no, actually when it declares an attack, then you can target a card that your opponent controls and banish it. Is that what it says? Yeah. So it's your other form of disruption in the Dark Magician deck, other than a Dark Magical Circle. And then afterwards, 1 Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon, 1 Big Eye to steal your opponent's monsters, and 1 Hierophant of Prophecy. That's off frame like that. So yeah. Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon, basically whenever your opponent tries to do anything, they take 500 points of damage. Big Eye, you can steal one of your opponent's monsters, maybe a Colossus or anything like that. Hierophant of Prophecy, you can use this effect to destroy spells and traps your opponent controls up to the number of Spellbook spell cards in your graveyard. So, if I had not run the Spellbook engine in this deck, then I would have not been able to include this card into my extra deck. And what else is there? Oh yeah, the Link monsters. For the Link monsters, pretty much standard stuff from this point on. Link Spider for your Dark Magician to send it away to the graveyard. Underclock Taker, Nightmare Cerberus, and Nightmare Phoenix. And I also decided to incorporate, like I said with Hierophant of Prophecy, if I did not run the Spellbook engine, I would have not been able to run this card as well. So, what's Bond between teacher and student, Crowley the First Prophecyr came straight out of Duel Power, and it only takes 2 spellcaster monsters to make. And so when it's link summoned, you can reveal, in this case, you can reveal Magician of Prophecy. You can also reveal Secrets and Knowledge, and your opponent randomly picks one of them to add to your hand. So it's an extra search from there. And it also opens up the 2 monster zones for you to special summon your extra deck monsters. Afterwards, Witch's Apprentice. I like to call her Wendy, actually. I completely forgot about that. And then afterwards, Decode Talker and Borlo Dragon. Wendy, of course, powers up the attack and defense of all dark monsters on the field. Decode Talker is a pretty decent negate, and it's also a link 3 in case you need it. And finally, Borlo Dragon, it's another way to steal your opponent's monsters in the same way as Big Eye. Now, before I go, I want to give you guys some side deck choices, since I don't have a side deck for this deck right now. So, some of the cards that you want to have in this deck is Red Reboot, in case you want to stop your opponent's impermanence, or Metaverse for all those Mystic Mindburn players. And there's also Salamangreat players out there who decide to activate Rage and Roar while you're trying to do your plays. And there's also DD Crow to take out monsters and other cards in your opponent's graveyard as well. Pankratops is an easy spot removal. Also, it's a level 7, so in case you get Dark Magician and Pankratops on the field, then you can overlay for Ebon Illusion Magician. And you can also include Effect Veiler if you want to. You can also include Call by the Grave. Evenly matched to just get rid of pretty much your opponent's entire board if possible. And I also did not incorporate Secret Village of the Spellcasters, but if you guys want to, I recommend running only 2 copies instead of 3, because like I said with other cards in this deck, you want to avoid breaking. So anyway, that's it from here. Let me know down in the comments what other improvements you guys would make to this deck profile. And I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to help support the channel, then be sure to hit that like button, of course. If you haven't so already, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you stay updated on my latest Yu-Gi-Oh videos. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you again.